I'm coming to you from central Nebraska, a part of the state that we refer to as the Lush Hills. It's kind of rolling topography, evenly divided between rangeland and crop ground, little aerial view of our farm and ranch. I'm an amateur beekeeper, very amateur. We have 3 hives outside the office here today, but really what I am is a wildlife biologist that has spent my career working on designing, establishing, and managing high quality pollinator habitat. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today is how can we get these kind of results. And before we start, there's probably a few people on this webinar that saw a promotion for it about seed mixture design and were interested, but have maybe never heard of this organization called the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund before. And what we are is a nonprofit that is dedicated to getting high quality pollinator habitat on the landscape. And we do that through many different vehicles, many different programs, the Seed Legacy program, the Solar Synergy program, and others. And you will learn more about those programs or have the opportunity to link to them throughout today's presentation. So what's the support that we provide? Well, you can see a picture of Elsa there, and on the left side of the screen, one-on-one technical guidance can be access to free seed mixtures. We've done a long series of webinars that are available for you, different videos, flyers, but one of the main things that we want to reference, and the first item that we're going to drop into our chat function, is a link to our pollinator habitat establishment and management guide. And if you either click on the link in the chat or use the QR code, you can eventually get to that to download it free of charge. It is a top-notch, great guide and tool that will cover all aspects of your habitat project. And we highly recommend that you take a look at that. Okay, so I'm going to start with talking about the Mount Rushmore of habitat. And there's really 4 things that are on this Mount Rushmore. The first is the significant importance of site preparation. How do you go about it and how you implement it? The good news is that last month, Elsa gave a webinar about this issue, site prep. Okay, so that's available. You can go back and look at it. The next one is seed mixture design, what we're going to talk about today and how that rolls into the importance of what you get out of a project. The third one is how you go about planting and establishing your habitat project. And then the fourth one is management or maintenance. All 4 of these Mount Rushmore topics about the quality of your habitat and how you get habitat on the landscape will be discussed in a webinar. So today is number 2 in that series. Last month, Elsa did the first one. Today, we're talking about seed mixture design. Coming up in the future, you will be able to have access to hear and see the next 2 webinars in this series. Okay, so here's the first thought that I want to give you, is that creating great habitat project starts with having a great recipe. And as a wildlife biologist, here's what I mean by the recipe. The recipe are all the different factors and objectives that have to go into influencing what is in your seed mixture. Your geography, your soil type, your project budget, what your timeline is, how you're going to manage it in the future, what your pollinator species objectives are. We're going to talk about some of these today, but know that the recipe is a list of probably 15 different factors that all have to go into the design of your seed mixture. So the first thing I'll say is I would discourage people from just going and buying any kind of a canned seed mixture. You go to entity A and they have the Pollinator Bing Bang Boom seed mixture. I'm making that name up. The Pollinator Bing Bang Boom seed mixture, and you just kind of buy it. They've already put it together. Personally, I would discourage that because buying seed that way does not factor in all the ingredients in your project's recipe. All right. And the way that we deliver this is through what we call NextGen conservation seed mixtures. I'm going to talk about what NextGen means in this presentation and why we think that we design and deliver seed mixtures with increased results and outcome and innovation. Okay, last kind of setup thing is what to expect. I put this slide up here. Elsa talked a lot about this in her site preparation webinar, but what I wanted to put up here and share with you is this set of images from one project and share with you the kind of catchy phrase and the concept of frequently on pollinator projects in year 1, the planting sleeps. In year 2, it creeps and you begin to see things happening. And in year 3, it leaps. It's not to say that there's not value in years 1 and 2, but a high quality, highly diverse planting often requires time, management, and patience to really kind of begin to look like what you think it should look like. Okay, so there's 4 things about seed mixture design that I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to give you all 4, and then we'll go into each one in a little more detail. The first one is considering what your project objectives are. This starts before a single thing happens on the ground in your project. The second is using a 2 seed mixture approach. The third one is we'll talk about a pollinator value scorecard. And the fourth one is how these seed mixtures are designed with science and innovation, our NextGen conservation seed program approach. So here we go, considering your project objectives. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to sit down and think about, what do I want to accomplish? Do I want to benefit monarch butterflies or grassland songbirds? Or if you're a beekeeper, do I want to benefit my honeybees and increase honey production? Or do I want to benefit as many different species as possible? Those are the objectives that you want to sit down and think about. What do you want your project to do before we do anything? Because that influences your seed mixture design. The second is your geography and soil type. If you've never seen a map like this before, this is a map that is related to one single plant species. And in this example, the green counties, the dark green, or states, excuse me, these dark green states are states where that plant is known to occur. The lighter colored shadings here within the county of the state indicate that that plant species was known to be found in that county. Okay, the reason that I'm showing you this is whomever is designing your seed mixtures, and this is the way the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund approaches all of our seed mixture design, is we want to make sure that that species works in your geography and in your soil type. Do you have a sandy site? Do you have a loamy site? Do you have a site with a bunch of clay? All of that has to be factored into your seed design. So we're not trying to put a square peg into a round hole. The next is site prep and planting options. The tools that you as a landowner have available can dictate how your seed mixture is designed. Let me give you a couple examples. If you were to say to us, we don't have access to a drill to plant seed, nor the equipment to pull a drill or something like that, so we're going to have to broadcast seed our planting, that would be a factor that would go into influencing what species went into the seed mixture. If you were somebody to say, in this image right here, we're spraying out brome as a site prep technique to be able to plant this area to pollinator habitat. If you were somebody that said, I can't or I won't use herbicides or something on our project, and we need to use a different site preparation technique, that would influence your seed mixture design. So the tools that you're going to have available to prep a site, to plant a site, and then manage it in the future, which is what we're talking about in this one, will influence your seed mixture design. What are your objectives? We have to consider all of those things on the front end, because again, those are important considerations to go into your seed mixture design. And again, why we don't recommend that you purchase the Pollinator Big Bang Boom seed mixture, but have one custom designed for your project. All right, the next one is that we at the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund use 2 seed mixtures on every project that we work on. That's really unique, and one of the reasons why we do it is we think that we get much greater environmental benefits, and we're going to talk about those. Here's an example of one of our projects. This is enrolled in the Seed a Legacy program, and it was planted to 2 different seed mixtures. And if you look at this field, you can kind of see that the center of that looks a little different. That was where in that program, our monarch butterfly seed mixture was planted. And on the outside of the field is where our honeybee seed mixture is planted. Really important to note, we use 2 seed mixtures. They are planted separately, never combined together. They're planted separately because that's how they're designed to perform on the landscape. So the center of this field is a very different mixture than what is planted around the outside. We also use this approach when we work on solar energy projects. Here's a project where this kind of pinkish color is where the panels are, and that has 1 seed mixture that only grows so high. And then these green areas are where we use a vegetative seed mixture that can grow to any height because there are not panels there. The 2 seed mixture approach is something that is really unique and produces a lot of benefit. And one of the reasons why we use 2 seed mixtures is because we can design a seed mixture that establishes very, very quickly, like within a year, and doesn't follow that sleep, leap, sleep, creep, leap strategy that we showed you earlier. So we can kind of get different paces of establishment and benefit. Another reason that we use 2 seed mixtures goes back to those project objectives again. And we can design a seed mixture like this one, where the outside ring of this project is green and lush with clovers in it. And that allows us to be able to use that area as a green fire break, where we have that fire break on the outside and then are able to burn other areas of the project, part of our maintenance and management that we have going forward. Okay, the third thing that we want to talk about today is that every seed mixture that we design uses a seed calculator and produces a pollinator value score. Again, you don't get this with the Pollinator Big Bang Boom seed mixture, but you can get this with a seed mixture through the Bee and Butterfly Habitat Fund. So all of our seed mixtures are designed using a seed calculator. When you look at that and it's like, I can't read it, don't worry. Just know that this is how every seed mixture is designed. And when we look more closely at part of a seed mixture using a seed calculator, here's the factors that are in there. And again, this is all part of that recipe of how your seed mixture is built, and something that we really want to be considering. The species common name and scientific name is in there. It's really important to not obtain your seed mixture based solely on a common name, because those names can mean different things in different parts of the country. There's a seeding rate, in this case, how many pounds per acre for each species. And that rate tells us how many seeds per square foot there are of each individual species in our planting. That is the magic dust of how we make these seed mixtures happen and function and all work together. The next thing in there is we also want to know what percentage of the overall seed mixture this component is. So in this seed mixture, there were 64 species in it. And this one, sawtooth sunflower, we're highlighting, was 0.4% of the entire mixture. That's pretty good balance. The next thing that's in there is we look at which bloom period it flowers in, 1, 2, or 3, because we want to have species spread out across the entirety of the growing season. At the end, we have a total number of seeds per square foot. This one happens to be a little better than 36 seeds per square foot. That means in 1 square foot of ground, 12 inches by 12 inches, there will be 36 seeds that germinate and grow. That's a very, very nice seeding rate. And then again, we look at the total number of species that we have in this seed mixture, 64, and then how many species there are in each of the 3 bloom periods. But most importantly and uniquely, very, very unique, is that every bee and butterfly habitat fund seed mixture produces a pollinator value score from 0 to 5. And if we look down here at the bottom, this seed mixture scored a 4.42 out of 5, which is an incredibly high number. Now, there's going to be folks on here that are like, well, how do you do that? And how do you come up with these values? In every one of our seed calculators, it lists the different information. There's lots of research projects that have determined the value of individual plants. We list some of those in here. And then it's all kinds of other factors that are in here that are listed right there. And you'll also be able to see this information on our website. Last thing about the scorecard, I said that it ranges from 0 to 5, and that is because not all plants that flower are created equal and have the same value. Here's an example of perhaps one of the most commonly used plant species in pollinator seed mixtures, black-eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta. It's inexpensive. It shows up quickly, lots of color, that sort of thing. It's found across a broad geography of the country, as opposed to another species that's called showy wand goldenrod, Solidago speciosa. It is also found across pretty broad range of the country, a lot of overlap with black-eyed Susan, but their pollinator value is incredibly different. And black-eyed Susan has a value of 1, whereas showy wand goldenrod, as you can see from this photo, very highly prized as a pollinator value species, scores a 5. Just because something is flowering does not mean that it has high pollinator value. Okay, the seed mixtures that we use are designed with science and innovation. There are 5 different research studies that have looked at the pollinator value of bee and butterfly habitat fund seed mixtures. I'm going to tell you today about 2 of those studies. The first one is from the U.S. Geological Survey, and the second one is from the University of Minnesota Bee Lab. They have looked at flowers, honeybees, and native bees. And here's some of the information that has come out of those research projects. The first is that when they compared bee and butterfly habitat fund seed mixtures to everything on the landscape, other conservation program plantings, roadsides, pastures, grasslands, state wildlife management areas, national wildlife refuge areas, they found that bee and butterfly habitat fund seed mixtures had twice the number of flowers than anything else out there, that we had 3 times the number of honeybee visits and 8 times the amount of native bee use compared to everything else that was on the landscape. And when you took that study a little bit deeper down, and they compared it to USDA conservation programs, found that no matter what the season, bloom period 1, 2, or 3, that the bee and butterfly habitat fund seed mixtures performed better, provided greater pollinator value than USDA pollinator programs, all the other conservation programs, wildlife management areas, waterfowl production areas, all of those sorts of things. So we're very excited about that. Lots of flowers, lots of pollinator use, and that study, one of those studies with the actual research study link to it, is now being added to the chat so that you can take a look at that. Okay. Some of the last things that we'll have in today's discussion is designing for outcomes. You want to start planning and prepping very, very early for your project. Before you've done any dirt work or anything, think about how you want to do it. Design the best seed mixture possible. Once you've put the seed into the ground, you have limited options for how you're going to go about correcting and improving things. So it's really important. Really think about, do you want to go with the pollinator big bang boom seed mixture, or do you want one designed specifically to fit your project objectives? And then follow that bee and butterfly habitat fund habitat establishment and management guide. We put a link into the chat. You can access that, and it's on our website. Okay, last thing before we go to your questions today, and Elsa comes back, anybody that's on this webinar today can support our mission and what we're doing. We're getting great pollinator habitat on the landscape, higher pollinator values, and we've really designed it following our NextGen conservation seed program strategy. We have all kinds of resources that you can access, our other webinars, habitat tips, handouts, flyers, that sort of thing. You can also follow us on our many different social media platforms. And if you use the QR code on the right side, you can sign up for our newsletter that goes out once a month. And the other thing that I would personally ask is that if pollinator habitat is something that you're interested in, you've been involved with the bee and butterfly habitat fund in the past, or you're just hearing about it right now, consider giving us a donation by following the QR code on the left and going to our website and supporting our efforts that are benefiting pollinator health and habitat, grassland songbirds, soil health, water quality, renewable energy, food sustainability, and on and on and on. We're really all about designing and creating multiple environmental benefits, and we appreciate your support.